Thanks, Toad. And we're live. I'm rBarbaloot. Co-commenting with me is Synthpop is back. Tonight I'll be doing a run of the Magic of Scheherazade. It's a fairly obscure RPG from released in 1987 in Japan, 89 in America. But here you can read a little bit about the backstory of this game. And here we go.
We're still working on trying to get this a little bit shorter, but it's going to be about an hour long. Alright, to start this off, this game is it's a weird mashup of Zelda-style exploration and adventure, and there's some like RPG elements, some random encounters on screen transitions, a little bit of platforming. It's got some really weird mechanics going on, but initially you start off as a magician, and we're going to stay a magician for most of the run. There's points where you have to change between magician to fighter or saint, but the default class is magician.
Alright, the damage I just took to that bandit right there was deliberate. In addition to overworld enemies, there are turn-based encounters, similar to Dragon Warrior. And, at least in this chapter, they can be manipulated somewhat. Basically, there are two variables that determine whether or not you'll get each random encounter, in addition to the number of encounter screens you've crossed. Certain screens are flagged as encounter screens, and when you leave those screens, there's a chance a turn-based encounter can occur. Like the first encounter screen in the run is this one right here, but since I took that damage, the encounter is not going to show up.
Yeah, we suspect that it's possible to manipulate the encounters in most of the chapters.
Oh, it's definitely possible. A task could do it.
Right now, it's only really worked out for the first one.
And then in chapters 4 and 5...
yeah, the task did it, but yeah. There's lots of things that the task can do that we can't.
And in chapters 4 and 5, there's Ramapas, so we can avoid encounters with that. Talk about that when we get to those chapters.
Alright, so in this first town, he's going to stop in at a university, which will allow him to take a class, learn about the great magic for this chapter, which he won't be picking up. And it also gives him a rod upgrade, which doubles the damage output from the rod. It's very useful. We'll have that same rod for the first 2 chapters.
I think my kill count's at 5 right now. To keep the manip going and avoid additional turn-based encounters, I'm going to want to count kills and get to kill number 10 at a certain spot. Basically, there are these 2 variables that...
Yeah, it is a shame.
probably need to not get any more kill. Well, no, let's just take... Okay, I just took damage there, so that actually reset my kill count to 0. So that could be a problem as far as the nip, but we'll see. Okay, these guys showed up. Let's go. So 5. Nine. Okay, so this is fine. We'll get kill 10 on this screen right here. Basically, taking damage stops certain variables from cycling, and then getting 10 kills without taking damage starts them cycling again. And so I'm timing it in order to... Well, it didn't work there, but it was supposed to avoid that encounter. But still, it's just 1 out of the first 4 encounters, so... It's better than doing no manip. But yeah, it looks like the manip's busted now. So we just gotta see what encounters we get.
The good news is that you get 3 attempts to escape from each encounter, so it's not really that dangerous to run into one. It costs a couple of seconds every time, but in terms of a marathon run, it's not that big of a deal. There's a neat little trick here that we figured out, I don't know, a year or 2 ago. Normally, when you try to borrow money from this merchant, he has a cap of 400 coins that he'll give you, unless you happen to ask for 150 rupees when you have a debt of exactly 350, and then he will give you the full 500. If you have any other numbers or ask for any other numbers, then he won't give it to you. So we buy a couple breads, a couple mushrooms, those are HP and MP refill items, respectively, and then carpets, which effectively work like Wings of Wyvern in a Dragon Quest game.
Alright, we just recruited the ally for
the first of the companions. Most of...
We just recruited Farouk, and that's all we needed to do in the past. We're not going to go into the maze and pick up Moncum or any of that. So I just carpeted back to the previous town, and now I'm walking back to the time door. This whole area right here is 50 years in the past, relative to where we started. Okay, so back to the present, I'm gonna head to this area called the North Cape and jump in the water, which would have killed me if I did not get the ally Farouk. As for experience in this
Lets
chapter...
him breathe underwater, but only in this specific spot.
Glad to see that money bag there. Regarding experience, I just want to get to 80 experience in this chapter for level 3, and I'm close already, so it'll be just trivial to get there. Doesn't always happen that way. Okay, so here we're visiting the underwater town of Horan. This is the same town we visited in the past. If I talked to townspeople there, they would have mentioned how the town is sinking. So now, in the present, all the residents except one are a mermaid. Had to answer no to that question to get that ally, Kibabu, to join. Or Kibabu. You just hit B to answer no. Now with Kibaboo, we can get in this dungeon. This is the palace, this is the end of this, or the last dungeon of this chapter. Okay, let's please escape. Okay, good. If I hadn't escaped that third try, then I'd have to sit there and take damage. And then hope I escape next try. Okay, time for the demon fight at the end of this chapter. For this first stage here, okay, so let me take out the first eye first. Okay, so here I'll be using a combination of the spell Boltor 1 and the rod in order to take out these eyes. I need to do it so anytime I shoot an eye with the rod, it's already been hit by Boltor. If an eye gets hit with the rod and survives, then it counters with Thunder, which does 10 damage and wastes time. Alright, so that part went okay. Okay, so that's going to put me below 0 HP, but it's just going to use a bread. I'm expecting to lose a bread in this fight, usually to the stone magic right there, which does 30 damage. And that was chapter 1. At the end of each chapter, you automatically get leveled up to the next multiple of 5, so I'm leveling up to 5 right now. So this is the Princess Ashalado.
In each chapter, you can only be up to 5.
Now we see the evil magician Sabaran, who, to our knowledge, is the villain behind this whole game. Okay, so in Chapter 2, we're actually going to be skipping the majority of this chapter by already knowing the way through the Maze Desert. First thing to do is grind on this screen a little bit. I'm going to stay here for 6 screens worth of these guys. The little sand beasts in the quicksand. There we go. And ideally I'll be at 740 experience by the time I leave. Okay, that guy dodged the last shot, so 730 will have to do. Stealth money bag, love those. Okay, so this here is the Maze Desert. It's like the Lost Woods in Zelda. The screens just keep repeating if you go the wrong way. Normally you'd have to do a bunch of stuff in this chapter, including recruiting 2 allies, in order to eventually get an ally who shows you the way. But if you know the way, you can just walk straight through, and that lets you skip most of the chapter. So right here, we're already near the end of the chapter, just a few screens away from the palace.
That is, in fact, the one skip that we're really aware of. We're hoping that maybe something else can be skipped later, but right now it's just we can cut down 70% of this chapter.
I'm going to cast the spell Deafening before entering the palace here. It doubles defense, so it'll minimize some damage early on.
Yeah, you can see that he's at 2 breads and 4 mushrooms, and his next opportunity to buy anything is going to be Chapter 4.
Not counting getting the key in Chapter 3. But then there's not bread and some mushrooms at that shop.
Right. And we know that those 4 mushrooms are going to be used up at the boss fight in this chapter.
Okay, 1 kill away from level 7. That's all we need to hit for this chapter. Here we learn the spell Flamel 1, and this is a spell that's needed to get through the demon fight at the end of the palace here.
If you get here, or get to the demon and don't have that spell, you basically just have to leave the fight. So in the 2 grinding spot, there's actually like the goal experience level is enough to get you to the next level, or the level that you need by the time that you get to the actual demon. And just a little preemptive warning, we should have probably given one before, but there are a lot of flashing lights in this demon fight coming up. If that's a problem for you, look away.
Alright, the first stage of the fight here is just 8 quick casts of Flamel 1. Not delaying any time between casts because she can counter with the star magic, which takes time. But as long as you mash remotely competently, that won't happen. And now for the second stage of the fight, I'm going to start by casting Flamel 1 5 more times, which is all I have MP for. And on the 5th cast, some arms will die. The way it works is, after each of these casts, she picks a random arm and heals it to full health. And so I'm hoping that she heals the same arm repeatedly. But we'll see how many arms die after the next cast.
Yeah, you usually want to get like 3 of the arms, and preferably the ones in the back.
Yeah, so only 2 arms died, and both top arms survived, so that was a really bad break. The top arms are harder to hit with the slow rod. Since we skipped most of the chapter, we didn't get the rod upgrade that we would have gotten in the casual playthrough. So we're using an unusually weak rod for this boss.
Curly does also have the magic pixel of health a lot of times, so what happens usually is you get to the end, if you've got enough MP, you can finish her off with 1 more cast of Flamel, but he doesn't have it.
Alright, 1 more hit. There we go. Yeah, that fight can take a while when she's left with just her top arms, because that rod is too slow to reliably hit her. Or at least the top arms.
It almost sounds silly to think about it now that this boss and the Chapter 4 boss were the ones that gave us the most trouble for a really long time, but now it's not even a question that Curly there is easy. Salamander is a nightmare. Sally be a pally.
Okay, so this is Chapter 3, Forest World Samarkand. There's always the decision here about whether to pick up these 50 rupees. In a PV attempt, I would skip them, but for marathon safety, I'll pick them up here. This way, if I get bad RNG as far as money bag drops in a certain segment later, it'll still be okay. We need 300. We're going to be spending 380 coins in this chapter, which we've already got, but there's also going to be a good deal of money to spend in Chapter 4. And so we'd like to be accumulating money toward that as well.
Yeah, there's one big grind in the game. You have to do, I think, 20 enemies that you have to spawn, and you need somewhere between 12 and 15 money bags to drop out of those 20 enemies.
Okay, so this is what happens if you fail to escape from an encounter 3 times. Now we're just going to have to sit here, take damage, and still don't know we're going to be able to escape next time.
Also, Barbaloot, your timer stopped.
Oh. Oh, shoot. Okay, yeah, I thought I should have changed the hotkey. I don't think there's a way of getting that back.
Looks like they got it covered.
Okay, good. So should I just ignore my timer then?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, okay, so I lost a bread there because I got distracted, but I bought an extra bread at the beginning, so that worked out. There's going to be an HP refill coming up soon, so taking damage early in this chapter isn't a big deal, as long as I don't lose a bread. Which of course I
anytime you
did.
get a rod or armor or equipment upgrade that you didn't have to pay for, like you didn't go to university and take a class for it, then you get a free refill of HP. And in Chapter 5 especially, that's going to be very nice.
Okay, so this is the town of Casimil. First thing to do here is cast Operan to get into this magic university. We're going to take the Spricum course.
Yet another great magic that we won't be picking up.
Right, the point is, taking this course gives you the R armor as the reward.
Our armor operates as like a permanent Deafening cast, so you don't have to... In fact, it actually replaces Deafening. Casting that spell will no longer do anything unless you're in a random encounter.
Right. We also need to change class to Saint here. Just temporarily.
One of the things that you may have noticed in Chapter 1, when he was picking up Keebaboo asks him, has he ever picked up a girl, or tried to pick up a girl in a hamburger shop, and he had to say no. If you say yes there, then you get kicked out of the house, and you have to go back in and waste some time. Basically, anytime an NPC in this game asks you a yes or no question, you're supposed to tell them no. So he's going to be asked again, I told you that I would give you 3,000 rupees in the past or whatever, right? And you're supposed to say no. If you say yes, then you get kicked out and you have to go back in and waste more time. There's a particularly trolly version of that in later chapters that actually ends up with an instant game over. But you're safe as long as you're being asked a question. If you just mash B, you're pretty safe.
So here we're taking the time door to 30 years in the future. If I'd been talking to the townspeople, they would have been telling me about how winter's coming, and it's caused by the winter demon troll. So 30 years in the future, we now see that it's winter. I'll be taking gradual damage just from the cold environment, in addition to any damage I take from enemies. And And this here is why we need it to be a saint for this part. First we'll answer no to that question. Password is Chocola. Someone in the present would have told us this. We've been going everywhere.
Super Brotendo, in fact, we play this game all the time on Twitch. You should come check it out sometime. Yeah, Aaron222, there is actually a run that was designed for this game. It's the 110 Rupia Challenge, where you do stay as a saint until you absolutely can't be a saint anymore.
Okay, so from that Cimarron tree, I got the Cimarron Rod. It's a rod upgrade. We can't see it yet because I'm still a saint. I'm about to change back to Magician here. Then we'll see the upgrade.
Magician gets access to the rod upgrades, the fighter gets access to the sword upgrades, and the saint gets neither, but they have the ability to walk over damage tiles without taking damage, so yay. Saint is the worst class ever.
If you even picked up the magic boots, which the speedrun doesn't pick up.
Correct.
Okay, so now we get 2 shots per screen with the rod, and it's much faster. It would have been very nice to have this in the curly fight last chapter.
Yeah, what I wouldn't give to have this in curly fight.
Now begins the long walk south to the town of Nubia. The town where the chapter started, but in the future. We need to bring the Cimarron fruit to a doll maker there, Supapa, and he'll carve our next ally for us, Pukin. Pick up that HP drink.
Yeah, so it looks like you've got, what, 70 extra rupees? Something like that, so you're only going to have to grind out, 260 or something out of the guys in Chapter 4, unless you pick up another money bag.
Yeah, money will hopefully be less of an issue this run than it is in a typical PV attempt, since I picked up those 50 rupees in this chapter. Okay, made it there. Still have 1 bread left, so reasonably good shape.
Do you think you'll be taking a death refill, or?
I'll have to see what my health looks like in the palace.
Yeah.
Probably, though. Okay, so there's Pukin. He joins us, and now we carpet right back to Casamil. That's all we needed to do in the future, so now it's just getting back to the time door.
Yeah, Nailed Snail, it is, I think, 2 sounds right, because you can jump over the trees. So you land at the second one, and if you do it right, you can actually get pushed forward a little bit, kind of click forward.
Oh yeah, the reason I'm jumping is I'm jumping when I'm just barely across a grid line, so that when I land, I'll snap forward a little bit. Doing that efficiently all game can save some seconds.
There are a lot of places where it's kind of hard to do because you can't really tell exactly where you are on the grid, but when you have these trees there, it's pretty useful. Pretty easy to do. Yeah, so it looks like you can clear a complete tile and you land 2 tiles in front. So here he's heading to a maze. You actually, I believe this is the one where you can't see anything in the maze unless you have Pukin, right? And
That's right.
Acts as a light source.
Or it's unless you have the Cimarron Rod.
Oh, man. music in this game is extremely catchy.
Probably should have gone and picked up that money bag. Oh well. It's kind of out of the way.
Only needing 13 out of the 20 efforts to drop money bags is not too bad of a situation to be in anyway. There goes your bread. It's not a big deal. Like I mentioned earlier, you may end up taking a death warp or a death refill. You have there's a life system in this game. You can die twice and be safe. On the third death, you get reset to the beginning of the chapter, but all of the progress that you made still happened.
By the way, you do need to answer yes to Mustafa right there, or else you have to walk back in.
Oh, that's
true. You
true.
pay him 100 rupees to get him to join you.
Yeah, he might be the one.
You also need to stop in here and buy a single key to go with the key that we got for free for hitting level 5 at the end of chapter 1. But you only get that free key if you don't already have any keys. So that's why we don't buy keys in chapter 1. We wait and buy the second key here.
Yeah, you could get it early, but it would cost 40 rupees for the run. And, money in this game is pretty tight. Like, you don't want to...
Or at least in the speedrun it is.
Yeah.
If you get
right,
Moncum, then it's a non-issue.
Money in a casual run of this game is a complete non-issue if you know what you're doing. But in the speedrun, it matters a lot.
I'm gonna cheese our way past this wizard.
Yeah, this spell of the strength works on that wizard, but not the next one. So the next one that he finds, he'll actually have to fight it.
This was a perfect time to hit level 11, because now these dragons take only 3 rod hits to kill instead of 4. And we're about to fight 4 of them. Just have to not hit him during his iframes.
Yeah, it's very easy to spend all that money, but you can get it, cast it during an eclipse, get it again. And in that interim, you could have borrowed money. Because casting Moncum also wipes out your debt, so you actually end up getting a total of 3,000 gold or 3,000 rupees from 2 casts of it, and it clearing out your debt. And so then here he's going to fall into this water.
Oh.
Oh, you're not? Okay.
I'll need to use Pampoo during this part. I forgot. So it'll take a little bit longer than just falling in the water and refilling health that way, but won't be too big of a time loss.
Yeah, in this first phase you have to hit Troll. He appears in one of these 5 places. You have to hit him 12 times. He counters with a spell that does 10 damage to you 11 times, so as long as your HP is over 110 when you start the fight, you're almost perfectly safe for the entire fight. With this 116 HP, he'll end the fight with 6 HP and not doing anything. So you stand between 2 of these images of him, and you can hit the one on either side. His hitbox is actually quite large, and it extends into the blackness behind him. So once you hit him, it's pretty easy to chain him as long as he keeps showing up in the spot that you're going to hit. And then when you've hit him the last time, he appears immediately in front of whichever image he was when you killed him. So you try and get to this far away from him as possible as you can before the second phase starts. Two more hits should do it. And there we go. Troll can actually walk into you at this point, and the only real problem with that is that your rod shots have a tendency to go through him, but he doesn't actually hurt you. He can transform you into, I think, a strawberry shortcake or something. Transforms you, I think, into some kind of food and can stomp on you, but otherwise it doesn't do any actual damage. And so some of these level ups give you, increased spell levels. Like he just got Flammel 2, he just got Shrink, which is the increased version of Korbach, and he just got the spell Ramapas, which is kind of an enemy away. Voids encounters under some specific circumstances.
Right, and this spell Ramapas is going to play a big part in the rest of the game. What Ramapas does is reduce the likelihood that both overworld and turn-based enemies show up. And the way it works with turn-based enemies specifically is it guarantees avoiding every encounter except for the multiples of 8, every 8th encounter, counting from the beginning of the game, where it guarantees you'll get that encounter. So I'm going to be sure not to have Ramapas up during any multiples of 8, and to have it up for most of the other encounter screens.
To answer your question, Aaron 2U2, I have never fought Troll with Mustafa dead. I imagine that he's too fast for you and can't be hit. I'm actually not sure what happens.
I've never fought him with Mustafa dead. I know that if you don't pick up Mustafa at all, it just doesn't even let you into the room with him. It says, this door will not open without the crystal spirit Mustafa, or something like that.
Yeah, so it may be that you can't end up in a situation where he's dead. It might not let you in there if he's dead. The walking mechanics obviously are a little bit strange. You can walk under that free with no problems.
Well, jump under it.
And jump under it.
It's because you're landing on the bridge. So that Ramapas there is going to last through 2 encounter screens. In the first 3 chapters, in the normal route, there are 27 encounter screens that we pass through. And in the desert just now, I passed through the 28th and 29th. Since those aren't divisible by 8, I knew Ramapas would avoid them. And it's going to wear off just in time for the grind of this chapter, in this route, right here.
And so there's this enemy that randomly appears here. It's an Ifrit. You have to kill 20 of them. You want to get to 5,800 experience, and they're worth 50 apiece. So you're at 100, so you need 12 money bags out of the 20 promised to drop to get the maximum amount. And we have like a target rupee account, not necessarily a hard account that you need.
Yeah, so if we can get to 320 coins right here, that'll be enough to afford 10 bread and 2 mushroom to have for the salamander fight in Chapter 5. And any shortcoming in money, I'll just make up for it by buying fewer breads. Salamander fight would have to go really badly to need all 10 breads. Level 17 occurs at 6,000 experience, and we're going to grind up to 5,800 here. And he's got, from experience, probably over a 50% chance of dropping a money bag each time.
There's a neat little trick you can do here where he's forming while that blue fire ring is there. You can cast Pampu, or if you get a really good shot, drop before he forms completely, and that'll actually let you walk through the ring of fire without taking damage.
Okay, one more money bag, and that's it for money. Okay, so since I have all the money I need now, I can speed things up a little bit by just walking off the right side of the screen and not bothering even crossing the screen. This just gets off the screen faster and makes these last few fights a little quicker. Alright, one more Ifrit.
So this money is going to be used to class change to fighter and back to magician, which is going to cost a total of 160 rupees. He's going to need 4 carpets, which will cost 40 apiece, and then I think you said 10 breads and 2 mushrooms, a total of 120.
Oh, this is an encounter screen right here, and I'll be passing through it twice, which was why I did that Ramapas cast. So I know I'll avoid it both times.
So far we fought Gilga, Curly, and Troll in chapters 1, 2, and 3. Those are the chapter demons. The chapter demon for this one is Salamander. He's why all of this water is actually lava and why everything is so horrible. And he's so very, very powerful that we're actually going to have to go back in time 3,000 years to when Salamander was a baby. Kill him when he was a baby. So he's effectively supposed to be the most terrifying thing in the game. If you were to enter the room where he is right now, I think you can, right? If you were to enter that room, you just can't do anything.
In the present, yeah, it's just a fire field, and you have to ring out. You have to use ring to get out.
And the classic time travel conundrum, should I go back in time and kill this horrible thing? When it was a baby.
Okay, so here we'll change class to fighter, which we need to do to recruit the next ally, Rainy.
Incidentally, being a fighter also gives you access to the discount in the shop, which is why we do this first. Then go to the shop, do the shopping, go get the final ally, and then come back and do a class change back to magician. And then we'll stay a magician the entire rest of the time. One of the old routes for this actually had us go into the first shop in the first town, so you'd actually start as a fighter. You'd go in there, borrow all the money you can, take the discounts on everything, and then change back to magician, and it would leave you with, I think, 100 extra rupees. But it takes so much time that it ends up not being worth it. He'll be using 2 carpets in this chapter and 2 in the next one. Like I said, he saves 100 rupees to make sure that he's got enough money for the class change back to magician after putting the next companion.
Right, and in a PB attempt, I wouldn't have bought those 2 mushrooms. Those are just for marathon safety in case the final boss fight of the game goes wrong. This is encounter screens number 33 and 34 I'm about to pass through, so I'll put Ramapas up to avoid those. I did not have it up for screen 32 earlier. Just had to chance it. Ooh, okay, didn't mean to hit that. That's not a problem. Just wasted 10 MP. Which, in this chapter, is not an issue. Okay, so the reason I was able to just jump into lava and live was because when recruiting the last ally, Gibibi, he comes with the Holy Robe, and that item lets you jump into this lava and get to the town of lava, which is where I am now. So here we're gonna...
So only this lava.
Right. So here, this is the ally Rainy. We absolutely must answer no to both of these questions or it's an automatic game over.
He asks if you're scared of salamander, and then he says, are you scared of any monsters? And if you say yes to either of them, he says, you're right, we should stay in. And then you do. Watch Netflix or something.
So now that we got Rainy, there's no need to be a fighter anymore, and we definitely want to be a magician for the salamander fight coming up. So we'll carpet right back to Fartle, this town, change class, and then carpet right back to lava.
Yes, game overs. Game overs if you say yes, that you are ever scared of salamander or other enemies.
Now those 0 coins are exactly what I'll need for the rest of the run.
That would set you back. Like I said, it's everything would have still been done in this chapter that you had already done. Like you keep your experience count, I think. You lose half of your money, and you start back at the beginning of the chapter.
Got some encounter screens coming up again, so I'll cast Ranopos on this screen. There's the jump.
Jump. Thank God. I can't never make that. It just doesn't work for me. Need to practice that more. Saves about 4 screens of walking, if you can make that jump right there.
Yeah, 4 screens.
There are actually 2 paths to go through this part of the maze here. You can either come straight up here and have to fight this Warhammer guy, which is a complete pushover, because you can turn him into a little baby and then hit him with your rod and he dies. Or you can take the kind of longer way around. In either case, you end up at the stairwell.
Well, the other way is actually shorter, but it involves a screen with stone statues, and the horn might not work on them, which would really mess you up. There's also an encounter screen on that way, so it's much safer just to do the sure thing and fight Warhammer. I need to be sure to hit level 17. This is... Okay, yeah. Now it's a sure. Got 2 Barzils and that dragon coming up, that's 110 XP.
At this point, if you were to go right instead of down there, you'd end up meeting the old man that teaches you the great magic for this chapter, and in the other, the Eclipse route, where you actually end up casting the great magic from chapter 1, you would wait on a screen right about here if you got here fast enough for the Eclipse. We don't do that anymore, so you're actually not going to see one in the entire run.
So there's level 17, and the important thing is that the rod increases in strength, and that's going to be a very big deal for this fight.
Yeah, good luck, man.
Thanks.
Here's hoping. 4-cycle salamander incoming.
Yeah, right. I've only done that once in my life, which happened to be yesterday. At least at level 17. Okay, here we go.
Incidentally, the other route also, you would end up with level 19. So this fight is a little bit less problematic, but you have a couple of chances to do some damage. Each rod hit does 16 points of damage to him.
At level 17, right?
At level 17, with this equipment set up at level 17. And every time he comes out of the fire field, he regains 50 HP. So you need to get 4 or 5 hits every cycle to make sure that you're at least slowly chipping away at his health. He moves randomly. He can just kind of hover over you. You can get 8 shots in one cycle. Each cycle that he doesn't die in takes about 40 seconds and uses up some of Rainy's XP or MP. Rainy can actually run out of MP if you don't kill Salamander fast enough, although it's generally pretty uncommon. And yes, this is the only way to hit him.
Some trollish movement by Salamander there.
It's also not immediately clear where his hitbox is. It's actually in the middle of his forehead above that middle eye. So he goes back in, Rainy beats the rain drum, makes it rain. Rain makes Salamander angry, he comes out, heals himself a little bit, and then cycles over again. Is that his nose? That might be his nose.
I think the thing in the middle is supposed to be an eye, but the hitbox is higher up than that.
Also note, this is the baby Salamander. It's the size of the room. He's still, by a wide margin, the hardest boss in the game. It's pretty frustrating when you can end up getting here at, 47 or 46 minutes or something like that, and this is the thing that would stop you from being able to beat the run. It looks like he's making some good progress on it.
Yeah, it's going pretty well so far. Coming in with tin breads helps a lot as far as this fight being fairly safe. In a PV attempt, a lot of times I would not have had as much money and would have had to buy fewer breads.
Yeah, incidentally, in my last run of this, Rainy ran out of MP. I was able to stay alive long enough by casting
one hit away and he went back in the fire field.
Damage to him. That magic pixel. I hate that magic pixel.
So now he's going to refill some of his health, and it'll take 4 hits this cycle to kill him. Should take 4.
So it didn't do a count. Do you know how many cycles this is?
I've lost count. It's probably around 7 or 8 right now, I would think. Oh, come on, please. There we go.
Seven cycles, that's not bad. But we're in the clear now, and none of the rest of this should be any kind of problem at all.
Well, since I got the 2 mushrooms. Otherwise, Gora Gora would be very dangerous.
That is... Catman, that is definitely not a fun boss.
Huh.
It is roll the dice.
The thing is, when that boss fight goes badly, it's such a big time loss because of all the time spent watching animations of him going in and out of the fire field. So yeah, it can be a very frustrating boss fight when it doesn't go well. So this is the last ally we recruit, Hassan.
Yeah, to Aaron 2U2's point, Sabron is imprisoned Scheherazade's sisters, Ashital, Roxanne, and...
Or Ashalado, Ishutal, Roxanne.
Ishital and Roxanne, yeah. And then you just found King Faisal, who was somehow 3,000 years in the past with the demon. I still don't have Scheherazade. I'm trying to find her. She must be in the last castle.
Must not have waited long enough. Surprised I got that encounter. Yeah. Well, the game's definitely letting me know I got this encounter.
One of the particularly annoying things about these Pandar enemies is that they get to act twice in every battle, so you get battles that end up actually taking a ridiculous amount of time. This particular formation, though, I don't think is very dangerous, right?
Yeah, I don't think it can kill me, but it can just waste time like this.
Some of the enemy formations have very powerful spells that we haven't even seen yet, or instant kill attacks, stuff like that. That can be really, really problematic.
Losing a ton of health, but fortunately with the 4 breads, it's not going to matter. That was just a very big time loss.
Also, 3 HP refills.
Right.
In a casual playthrough,
since I just lost all that health,
a fair amount of experience and money, and they can drop items and all that kind of stuff. They are definitely not worth fighting in the speedrun.
I was gonna say, since I just lost all that health, maybe I should do the Death Warp in the maze, but I didn't have a chance to pick up a Grim Reaper, so we'll just have to walk the normal boring way through the maze.
You have to pick up the Grim Reaper back there.
Well, on one of the screens where those eyeball bat things appears.
Oh yeah, there's none in between here and there.
Right. And taking all the damage without him would be too slow.
Yeah, we step into that town near Chigris to get it as a valid target for the carpet, because he's going to go through all the way through this maze to the time door, then come back, have to carpet to Chigris, go up to this other town, and then carpet back to Chigris and go most of the way back through that maze again. There's a lot of backtracking in this chapter. Right now he's got to pick up the final sword upgrade. We haven't gotten a single sword upgrade yet, but we do have to get it to progress the game. He's got to get the final rod upgrade and another arm upgrade. He's essentially got the Zelda blue ring right now. He's got to pick up the red ring.
The reason I repeatedly walked onto that screen was it's an encounter screen and I have Ramapas up, and I wanted to change where the next multiple of 8 hits to move it to a more convenient spot.
Spot where hopefully Ramapas isn't on, or
right, a spot where Ramapas won't be on. Just to stop that weaving. There we go.
Didn't even take the Pampu route. You decided to eat a bread for that. That's bold move.
There's no way I'm gonna need... Well, okay. If I got stuck in a fight, I could need that bread, but that's... Actually, no, if I get stuck in a fight, I'd probably rather get killed by it than have the bread make me live and have the fight last longer.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's no way I would need that bread.
So we're actually still in the same world as Chapter 4. There's only 4 worlds in this game, even though there are 5 chapters. But since we went back in time and stopped Salamander when he was a baby, things have changed now.
Right.
So you still go back 3,000 years in the past to this place. In this little palace here, you find a guy who tells you that there's one jar that you can walk through. And that's the sole hint that you get for how to get through this. The map is basically cut in half by these jars.
And there it is.
And you just walk right through this one.
And now we're going through a gauntlet of encounter screens, but that Ramapas cast will avoid all of them. I'll be walking through 7 encounter screens right now. 6 are forced, and I'm gonna take another one on purpose to make the next multiple of 8 occur at a more convenient spot also.
So there he got the legend sword, which you probably won't see. But it, like I said, it's required for progressing the story. You need it in order to get the armor, which you need in order to get to the end. Or the light armor, sorry. Armor of light. But that's all you have to do in the past here. You just go through this maze. Go through the maze to get to the time door. Go through this palace here. Get that sword. Go out. Go get the armor. Come back. There were 2 spots along the maze where he could have walked north. One of them is the university for this chapter, and one of them is the final dungeon.
So now I'm immediately carpeting back to Chigris. The ability to do this, again, is why I walked into that town to begin with.
Is it no longer worth it to try the death warp?
It's too late. Well,
is it only it's only worth it for that first one?
I'll have just gotten a health refill and have the light armor, so it would take too long to die, even with the Grim Reaper. By the way, that was the last possible encounter of the game right there. I did get the encounter, but escaped first try. And there aren't 8 encounters left in the game, so Ramapos will avoid every one for sure from here on.
Somebody in the town above him, there's a town in the screen to the north, somebody in that town tells him to go stand between these trees.
After you show him the legend sword. But in fact, you don't actually need to talk to him. If you have the legend sword and come between the trees, the bridge appears anyway. So here we pick up the Armor of Light.
And that little puzzle or riddle or whatever is a clue for how to get access to the final boss. We'll hear it again though. Somebody else tells you it. That's one of the great things for this game is, in my opinion, is the fact that as long as you just talk to everybody and you're taking good notes and maybe making maps if you need to, it's actually not that hard to figure out what you need to do. It might be hard to figure out exactly where to go because the map is pretty big, but they do really tell you everything that you need. So this should all be familiar, is walking back through that maze, walking back to it, and then through it. He's fought these dragons before. And it's 11,300 experience. He's going to hit level 21, and that'll be the end of experience gaining, at least that we care about for the rest of the game. In general, I would expect the next enemy to give that to him. Bit of encounter screen manipulation again.
Yep.
And there are actually also 2 ways through this maze. One of them is slightly longer, but avoids encounter screens, or avoids an encounter screen. This is the faster way because he knows that he can't get encounters because of the Ramapos pass. There's the final level. The only important thing about it is the power goes up again.
Right, the spell Morita, I just learned, is very convenient in a casual playthrough. It uses 4 MP to refill 50 HP, but you get it too late in the speedrun for it to be worthwhile.
And honestly, you get it too late in the casual run for it to really be all that worthwhile.
True, yeah.
It'd be nice if you got it earlier. So here we're in the final boss's palace, Sabaron's palace. He's got to hug this right wall for the most part, all the way up and around, and that'll wind up at the last spot that we need to be to get the final rod upgrade. Yeah, as Aaron says in the chat, pamper spamming gets really annoying. One, because I don't really like the sound effect for it, and two, it takes about a second and a half every cast. And at the end of last chapter, you actually ended up getting the Shrink spell, which is the final upgrade to the... or no, you get Karaba, sorry, which is the final upgrade to the Korbach Shrink family of spells, which actually ends up working on all of the wizards. Makes all of those fights a lot faster.
I didn't use it on the last wizard, though, because of MP. Save the MP.
It's possible to do the final boss. Oh, wait, no, sorry. We're actually at the spot here. This is important. Sabaron has made a horrible mistake. He summoned the great evil Gora Gora, and he can't control it. And so he asks you to free the princess and tell him who she was, because she can't tell anybody or it'll destroy her soul. And it turns out that she's been with you this whole time. She's the time spirit, Coronia. So now you get this rod, the Isfa rod, it's the final rod upgrade. You get 3 shots with it, and there are these big rings. Or no, what, 5 shots with it?
I think it's 5. Might be 4.
Oh, wow. Yeah, maybe 4. Because he's so sad. He's sad that he wasn't able to control Gora Gora. But yeah, sorry, as I was saying before, it's possible to one-cycle Gora Gora, in which case you only need like 80 HP and 100 MP, but the much safer way to try it is for...
50 HP. 51.
But you can be pretty safe as long as you've got 151 HP and 200 MP. Good to go. It is not hard to do in 2 cycles. It's pretty hard to do it in 1. Although we've both done it.
Huh. Maybe I guess my count was off. At least I escaped from it.
I have lost runs to that encounter right there. That is the actual last one in the game. In this little maze here, nobody really tells you where to go, but as long as you keep the screen red, you're going in the right direction.
Okay, so with the 2 mash roots, this part's going to be pretty safe, but without them, we would find out whether the run finishes or whether it dies here. Does Gora Gora make it to the second cycle?
There's hoping no. It's pretty nice though, you can just hold left, walk away from the center of the screen, and spam this spell 5 times. It'll transform you on the 4th one, then you hit him again, and he goes away, and
Alright, here we go.
Transform back. And then you have to hit this little ball here, and it'll, I guess we'll call time. You need 11 hits
God!
on
Time.
this ball.
Missed the first shot there, but still pulled it off, just barely.
looks like the final time was a 1:08:27. That's pretty good.
Okay. And that was with getting stuck in 2 or 3 fights, I think.
Yeah.
One of which was pretty long. So yeah, not terrible.
Yeah, so that's the Magic of Scheherazade. You've collected all of the princesses, you've freed King Faisal, you've destroyed the evil demon Gora Gora, and everything was all great. It's some ridiculously good ending theme music and credits music, but one of the more ridiculous things about this game is you've gone through all of this effort seemingly for nothing.
And thanks for the GGs, everyone.
Everybody gets their final say here. But the part that makes it not quite really for any reason is the answer that R will give to King Faisal. What will you do from now? As long as the mysterious world calls me, I will continue my journey. And you leave her there. Take everybody else with you. She was there with you the whole time. She has to stay behind. I don't know why. Yeah, I'm sure people say this all the time about all of the runs that they do on here. We're always looking for new runners for this game. I would be more than happy to verify more runs for this game. Nothing makes me happier. So, check it out. There's a Discord for it. You can find that on the speedrun.com page. But yeah, that was the Magic of Scheherazade. I hope you enjoyed it.
It's a very fun run to learn. You don't need to do any of the RNG manipulation stuff just to get a good time. As far as learning it, I'd say it's a fairly straightforward run to learn, and also as a casual playthrough. If you've never played this game before, I would strongly recommend it. It's very fun.